Hello everybody, so this is a tutorial on how to launch an EC2 instance in AWS. And if you haven't used AWS before, all you need before this tutorial is just create an account with AWS. And to make an account, all you need is a credit card. But don't worry about it because the first year after you create an account, you can actually use the AWS free tier here. And I'll actually link this in the description. But the first year after you create an AWS account, you get some benefits that they offer you. So for EC2, for instance, you get 750 hours for free per month for the first year. And there's some other things here you can look through when I send that in the description there. But yeah, just to let you guys know. So after you create an account, you just log in, sign into the console here, and I'll join you guys after I log in. Okay, so now that you're logged in, this is the home page for AWS here. If you just created an account, it might not look exactly like mine, as the recently visited here is probably empty for you, and you won't have any services up here pinned to the taskbar. But to find EC2, if you're using a new account, you can just click Services up here, or even use the search bar. I'll click Services, then go to Compute, and then EC2 will be right here. Now, if you want to pin something to the taskbar like I do right here, you just have to click this little star beside each service here. So if I want to pin batch up there, there's batch. I'm going to pin that though because I don't use batch. There you go. So you can pin that there, and after that you can just click on it to go into EC2. All right, so now that I'm in EC2, I just want to talk one thing real quick before we go ahead and launch an instance. You will need a key pair to actually log into your instance. So if you go, as you can just click here, I guess. So if you can click here for key pairs, and it'll create a key pair. And just give it a name. You can leave it as RSA. If you use PuTTY to do SSH into your EC2 instance, you can select this option. But I'm just going to use PowerShell. It says SSH client there, so I'm just going to do that one. And create key pair. And then it's going to let you download the private key. I'll just leave it in my downloads folder for right now. Doesn't really matter. All right. So now that we got that, we can go ahead and actually launch our instance. So just go back to the dashboard view here, and there'll be a big button here to just launch an instance. All right, so the first thing, just give it a name. So I'll call this tutorial as well. And then here you'll pick the operating system. So for these, you'll see a little tag here if it's actually free tier eligible. So Amazon Linux is. I don't think Mac OS is free tier. Yeah, I don't see a tag. But Ubuntu, of course, is free tier. I think Windows Server actually is free tier. Yep. And there's a couple flavors of Linux as well, wherever you want to choose. I'm just going to choose Ubuntu because that's just what I'm familiar with. And if you ever need a different pre-configured operating system, you actually click here for this magnifying glass, and you can look in the marketplace for pre-configured AMIs, which is what they call them. So I can actually, just for an example, look for a Ubuntu image that is pre-installed with Minecraft server, like ready to go. So just an example. We're just going to use the base Ubuntu image for right now. And if you want to select a Pro edition or anything like that, you can select it here, but we'll leave it as a free tier. All right, and this is where you'll actually pick the amount of resources to allocate for your instance. So the T2.micro is free tier eligible, and I recommend you just leave it, but it comes with 1 CPU, a gigabyte of memory, and those are the prices per hour based off what you choose for your image. You can go up to a even bigger image or instance size, so you can go to a T2.large, and it'll give you 2 CPUs and 8 gigabytes of memory, and of course it'll cost more. And there's a whole bunch of different options here based off if you need computing instances or maybe memory heavy, whatever you need. But we'll just leave it as the T2.micro since it's free. Again, here you can actually select your key pair, so we'll select tutorial. And then here you'll see the network settings. Since if you haven't really used EC2 before, I would just leave most of this as the default. One thing to just make sure is this auto assign public IP. Make sure this is enabled so it can actually be accessed by the public internet. If that is enabled, you can just click edit and then make sure it's enabled here. We can leave this. If you want to create a new security group, you can do that. And what security groups do is they just allow certain port numbers to go in and out of your instance. So if you want to, for example, create a web server, you'll probably want to allow HTTP, so port 80. So just show it as an example here. So right now SSH is allowed, which is what we want because we want to connect to the instance. We can have a new rule here and just do HTTP. So now that allows port 80 for this instance. I'll just remove that since I don't really need that right now. Okay. And then down here, you'll see your storage. So it comes with 8 gigabytes of GP2, which is just an SSD. And this actually tells you right here, free tier, you can go up to 30 gigabytes of EBS general purpose. So that's what this is right here. And if we need more, we can obviously increase the size or add new volume if we need to, but I'll just leave that. And don't worry about the advanced details. You probably won't need to mess with anything like that. And if you want to change the number of instances you want to launch, you can change that here as well, but you can just leave that. So that should be all of these settings we need to actually get this started. So I'll just click Launch Instance. All right. And while this instance is spinning up, I'll just go ahead and click here to show you. So there's some of my other instances from other times, but I'll just click on Tutorial. So as you can see, it's pending. So currently it's spinning up right now. And if you click on it, just like this little check here, you can see more information about it. So the actual public IP address is right here, and that's what we'll need to actually connect to the instance. It also assigns a public DNS. So if you just want to use a DNS instead of a IP address, you can do that as well. But I'll probably just go ahead and use the IP address to connect to it. So it shows it's already running, so that's pretty quick. So let's do this. So just to show you more information about how to connect to it, I'm going to click this here, connect. And there's different options to connect to this with SSH. You can use the AWS Instance Connect and not even have to use a terminal. It'll just launch a terminal in your browser for you to connect with it with. I'll show you how to do it with a PowerShell though. So for me, it'd be more relevant to look at the SSH client. And it just gives you a little description of what you need to do. So open an SSH client, locate your private key, and since I use the tutorial key pair, that'll be tutorial.pim. And then you need to make sure your permissions are correct so it's not publicly viewable. That can sometimes cause issues. If you do have an issue with that, try moving it in a different folder in Windows because sometimes that can be messy in your downloads, but it should work for me just fine. And then there it's telling you can just connect using the public DNS, but like I said, I'll just use the IP address. And then that's the example command that you'll run to actually connect to it. So you do SSH, and then the I option here is just specifying the actual private key that you're using to connect to it. And then you'll log in with the root user. So for Ubuntu, the default root user is just Ubuntu, and then at the source that you're going to connect to. So that's the DNS name, but I'll use the IP address. So let's go back here, and let me launch my downloads here so you can actually see my private key. I'll launch PowerShell from this folder. All right. So you can list it here and you'll see tutorial.pim. So it's SSH-I tutorial. Okay. And then space, and then we'll do Ubuntu at, and then I'll use the public IP. So I copy that, just right click in there, and that should be the command. So we just push enter. And the first time you're connecting to it, it'll ask if you want to trust this fingerprint here, and we'll just say yes. And there we go. We're connected remotely to our EC2 instance. And at this point, you can just run any commands you want since you're logged in as a root user. So since this is a new instance, I'll just run sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And this will update your repositories and apply those updates for your EC2 instance. So at this point, you can do really whatever you want to do, as this is just a Ubuntu server instance. So you can download Node, maybe set up a server, web server with that, or you can set up a Minecraft server like I was showing earlier with the public marketplace AMI. A lot of options for you, but choice is yours. There's actually Python already installed with Ubuntu if you want to just go ahead and get started straight into that, whatever you like. But there you go. So if you have any questions about this, just feel free to leave a comment about it. I can probably answer to you pretty quick. This should be pretty straightforward to follow. One thing to keep in mind, though, after this is running, if you don't really want to keep this server running up and using your credits with AWS, what you want to do is just make sure to go to instances here, select the instance, so tutorial, and you can change the instance state up here, and you can stop it or reboot it or terminate it if you want to completely delete it. Currently, AWS doesn't apply credits for these kind of EC2 instances if it's not running. So if you just stop it, it will not apply credits to your account. But sometimes they can start up without you realizing, so it might be best to just go ahead and terminate it if you really need to. So just keep an eye on that. That's just something to look out for. And this is almost done updating. It's probably pretty out of date since the image used for this could be a little bit old. It's almost there though. 99. It's got a kernel update. It's fine. All right, there you go. So now this is a fully updated Ubuntu instance, so I can do whatever I want with this at this point. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you later.